All right, so on your quiz, I'm gonna write this up in a second, but you don't have to copy it down, but I write it. Whoa, when I write it up, you should copy it down. This is a new grade. This is called literal equations. It's also called solving for a variable with letters as coefficients in the book. I wrote up literal equations. So if you happen to, oops. Taking notes and you have the topic. This is what we wrote up if you weren't here last class. So there are 2 new topics on the quiz next week. I'm going to make them 1 grade. Well, I was going to break them into 2 grades, but I still might. I don't know how. We'll see how everybody does on it, I guess. So literal equations was 1. That's where we're just rearranging the formula. We're just moving stuff around. We can't solve. It's all letters. We can't combine letters into one thing. We can't combine, if there were some numbers in there, we can't combine numbers and letters into one thing. Unless they have the same letter. So like 2x plus 3x is 5x, we can combine that. But for the most part, you're just moving stuff around. And all those problems that you have on your practice pages, these were the practice pages up here. 55 is the practice page. I said do 1 through 18, but really you should be able to do 1 through 14 for sure. And then page 37 is the practice for the absolute value stuff. So, and I really only put 3 of those on there. If you want to do more, there are way more than that. I can give you some more to do but if you can do all 3 of those, you should be in good shape. So I'd practice something else. All right, so when we solve for a variable, what does it mean? What's our goal? It's the same thing we've been doing. We're just going to wind up moving stuff around instead of having like an actual number on the other side. So we're just moving all the stuff to the other side, and we're not really combining anything into one term. We're going to have a whole bunch of stuff on the other side. So if I want to do, and I'm going to erase this right after I do it, so make sure you're copying it down if you want to have an example to use. So in this case, it's all letters. But I am solving for this particular letter right here. It says, and I know that because it tells me that, solve for H. So that's the letter I want to get all by itself. A lot of people were confused. I don't remember if it was yesterday or 2 days ago, to tell you the truth. That there were so many letters, they didn't know which one was farthest away. This is the one you treat as the variable. The other ones are, you think of them as numbers. We don't know what they are, but you have to think of them as numbers. This is the variable because they told us to solve for it. Now I just need to do the same thing I did. Which one of the other terms, well, I'll just say this first. So if I'm trying to get H by itself, what do I need to get rid of? Angela. Yeah, I need to get rid of this, and I need to get rid of negative D. We still want to think of that as negative. The sign in front of the term is glued to that term. So I need to get rid of those 2 things, and then H will be all by itself. And then those things will be on the other side. I'm just rearranging it. So Jocelyn, what's farthest away from the variable? Don't care about that. We're not getting rid of M. So again, when I say what's farthest away, I mean out of the 2 things we need to get rid of. We don't need to do anything with M. So again, you got to remember, M is not, I'm not doing anything over there. A lot of kids are looking at the other side still. I don't care about the other side. Whatever I do to the other side will be because of my number 1 rule. Whatever I do on one side, I got to do it to the other side. But I don't care what's over there. When I say what's farthest away, I mean out of these 2 things, always. Whether they're numbers, whether they're more variables, it doesn't matter. Is W farther away from H than D? D is farthest away. So in this case, I need to go ahead and get rid of the D first. Now that I know where to start, this is where I think opposite, rising. What do I do to get rid of that D? Yeah, the opposite of subtracting something is adding. So again, doesn't matter that it's a variable. That's still the opposite. Well, whatever I do on one side, I got to do on the other side. And again, here's where you just think of it as moving stuff around. Don't try to combine anything over there. just think, oh, all I'm really doing is kind of moving this over to the other side, which means it'll still be over there. Moved it over there. So now I bring down, just like I would if they were numbers, I bring down this whole term. And I still want to get h by itself. How do I get the h by itself, David? I said, how do I get the h by itself, David? What's the last thing I need to do? And then h will be all by itself. Yeah, this is W times H. Two letters next to each other is also multiplication. Just like a number next to a letter. Oh yeah, so just like a number next to a letter, 8 next to X is 8 times X. Well, W next to H is W times H. So if that is multiplication, well, the way I get rid of multiplication is to do the opposite. So I still have that, but I need to do the same thing on the other side. But again, just think of it as moving the W to the other side. Don't think of it as trying to solve. I'm just moving it to the other side so that I get H all by itself. So your final answer is just this weird looking thing, but that's all. You're just moving the other stuff to the other side and getting H by itself. You're going to have plenty of practice, or else I'd make you kind of, I'm sure a lot of you weren't sure how to do these two. I'm just going to get, I'll let you write that down real quick if you want. So I'm going to just kind of do this second one real quick and then let you practice those other problems. So if I am solving for B, change that. So if I'm solving for B, again, that means get rid of what? Sophia, what am I getting rid of if I'm solving for B? Yeah, I'm just getting rid of these two things. Again, I don't care what's on that side. Not getting rid of K, so I don't even look over there. I need to get rid of these two things. Which one is farther away? Carson, which one's farthest away from B? Say it like, say a word with it. Oh, you said V, right? That's what, that wouldn't sound like V. So V is the farthest away. So how do I get rid of it? Yeah, this is a positive V because there's nothing in front of it. There's nothing in front of it, it's positive. So the opposite of saying plus V, subtract V, whatever I do on one side, do on the other. Again, just think of it as moving it over there. I'm not trying to combine it with the K, just moving it over there with the K. And then now, what do I have below this? Who am I going to call on here? I'm going to call on Maddie. Maddie, what do I need to bring down on the left? What have I not touched on the left side? Well, there's a bunch of variables, but the variable we're solving for is part of it. So what else? But what else do I need to have still on that left side with the B? Like all I did is get rid of V. So what's still left on the left? There's something else beside V. Yeah, all of it. And don't forget the negative as well. This whole thing, I haven't done anything with any of that. So all of it comes down. So the negative is glued, even though they're variables, the negative is still glued to that SB. So now if I just want to get rid of B, I divide by the S, but if it's, again, if it's got a negative in front of it, it's still glued to it. Doesn't matter that it's a variable. So if I divide by a negative there, I divide by a negative there, and that, I'm fine with that being your final answer. That's not what you would see on a multiple choice quiz from the district. They would flip the sign of everything. So it would be V subtract K over positive S. This is fine. If you get to that point, I will mark that correct. If you're really concerned about the district stuff coming up, which is pretty soon, that's what you would see on the district. The sign of everything would flip. You're not supposed to have a negative in the denominator. All right, so here's what you need to practice. I may do I may do an absolute value problem in a little while. I'm not gonna do it right now, but that's on there. So your new grade is these two things. Absolute value, and you're just solving for a variable still. Absolute value. And again, that's called literal equations. That's where you're just moving stuff around. And you're solving for variables in both of these. You're still solving for a variable. In absolute value, you will get a number. You'll actually get two answers. That's the only tricky part about absolute value. You have to solve the equation twice. Once, you're going to solve it with the answer being a positive number, and then you're going to solve with the answer being a negative version of that same number. So you'll get two final answers. Do not forget that. I'm going to have to do one of those, because if you forget that, you really failed that topic. Because 1 out of 2 is a 50%. Yeah, here, just trick. Do you have a phone? All right, so now for your retake grades. So that's one brand new grade. You're gonna have at least three retake grades. Here's the ones you're definitely gonna have. You're gonna have a proportions, which I will tell you, solve for the variable in the proportion below. What does that tell you to do immediately? When I say that word proportions, that means you do the butterfly thing. And then you have to know to set those two answers equal to each other and solve for the variable. You have a bunch of problems to practice with that. So these are retake. I'm going to put multi-step equations on there. Solve for a variable. I don't really need to write anything there. And two-step equations again. So those are at least 3 retake grades. Might even try to squeeze one. I don't want it to be a super long test, and unfortunately these take a little while because you have to do the equation twice, but they're really just two-step equations, so they shouldn't take that long, even though you have to do it twice. Literal equations, again, they're not really complex equations, not the ones I'm going to give you at least. So they shouldn't take a super long time. Well, I haven't. Let me do one more real quick literal equation that I'm not going to put this on my quiz, but you may very well see this. Sometimes on the district, they'll give you something like this. They may give you V, or that's not a V, V, B, K, equals X plus 4, something like that. And they may say solve for one of the variables that's over here, but we got 3 variables next to each other. We haven't really seen that. Any idea what you would do to solve that? Yes, it's actually a really easy problem. It's only one step. What do you think, Nikki? Well, let's think about what's going on in the problem. What are we doing to that variable b? What are we doing to that variable b? By what? So we're multiplying, right? This is multiplication. Just we have 3 things being multiplied instead of just 2, but it's still multiplication. So we still think the same thing we always think. What's the opposite of multiplying? Well, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we would divide, but we would actually divide by the k and the v, both of them, because they're both being multiplied times the v. So it's really the same problem. It's just instead of dividing by one variable, we're dividing by both of the 2 variables. Or you could even think of it as dividing individually. Well, first I need to divide by k, so I divide by k. Then I need to divide by the v, so I wind up dividing by v. Either way, you should hopefully get to this answer. If you see something like that on the district test, which you probably will, they're probably going to give you something with more than 2 terms multiplied together, would be my guess. I won't. Mine are going to all be pretty much like a 2-step equation. maybe even one step, but most likely 2 steps. All right, so go ahead. I'll do an absolute value one in like 30 minutes or something, but you have all these things to practice. If you need to get a better grade on one of the word problem quizzes, that's a retake you need to do. I'm not giving you a free retake, but if you want to practice that, if you've got a good grade on all of this stuff here, and you're like, I've got this stuff down, I'm going to make you show me that you have this down first. Then you can practice creating an equation from a word problem, and I'll use that as like your practice for your retake, and then you can come retake it before the end of the week. So you have a phone? Did I get your phone, Jocelyn? Oh, you already got it. And you can just throw it up there. Just back one over there. What other retake was I thinking about giving you? I can't remember what the other retake. Yeah, that's it. Practicing all this. So absolute value, this is the new grade. So it's stuff we've just done this week. Well, I think we may have started last Monday. And then this is the retake grades that we'll run. And there will be in the 2-step, I will probably have fractions. So remember if you do practice 2-step, if you still need to get that grade up, you're going to need to know how to do some of those ones that had fractions on it. I handed out a 2-page worksheet that had a bunch of fractions problems. I'll put the pages up or the problems up. You should have copied them down already the other day, but I'll put them up again for absolute value and literal equations. I'll put literal equations up first. This is the sheet. It says 2-step equation practice. So if that's one you're going all the way back to, if you want to practice one with fractions. So let me put the book pages up. Oh, let's see this one here. Values, that. All right, so here's the literal equations practice problems. Some of these have variables on both sides. Oh, freeze it. I'll just tell you, I'm not going to give you like this one here has variables on both sides, R is on both sides. Other ones. This one here, number 10. It's good to know how to do those because I could see the district giving you something like that, but I'm not giving you this one also. They're definitely tougher to solve when they're on both sides. So use those to challenge yourself if you think you got this stuff done. I'll put the absolute value problems up after I do an absolute value one, so you can work on those for now. You should be able to do all worksheets. If you have your pages, that's 55. Huh? Oh, no, you don't have. The bottom ones aren't actually the hard ones. The hard ones are more the ones 7, 9, and 10. The ones you didn't. They have variables on both sides, and that's significantly different than doing. Let's see. Never get it. Tell you the rule. You have more than one variable. It's like for all of them. There's more than one variable. Or try to solve. So you could do the same thing here. They have variables on. Solving for C. Sometimes you have these things. Why try to fix that one? Definitely fix it. Ones that would be very similar. Good job. Question one. Solving for A. Never going to say variable equals when have the same variable. So rid of everything else. Just like we did. You know, we got the R, it's almost the same side. That's when you got to figure out how to do that. You got to figure it out again here because you got C's. Figure out how to get them on the same side. If not, I'll come back. did the right thing, you just got your multiplication wrong, which won't hurt. Now for x. What are you doing after this? How'd you go from here? Yeah, we wouldn't multiply, because this is multiplication right here, right? This is 4 times x. We always write the number as 4. That's what a number next to a variable means, right? Times that variable. So if that's what's going on here, what do we need to do to get, because we want to get x by itself, right? That's how we're solving means. What do we need to do to get x by itself? This is it's always the opposite. Opposite. When you're solving for a variable, opposite. Well, again, it's not an opinion. But yes, in your problem, if you had the wrong number here, you would still say divided by 4. And then you would say, okay, well, what is 180 divided by 4? And that would be, and then I would have to take something off, but you still get the B. I don't take much off of that. Go ahead and fix that one so you have a corrected one there. And I'll go back and I'll look at this one. Although you may want to look at that one yourself, and now that you've done. Don't think eight's go away. Isn't any all by itself. Yeah, this is what it fits. It's all you can do. Remember, if you ever have an equation, this is for all of algebra, for as long as you do algebra. So if you get algebra 2, it still applies. You can never solve an equation. That one equation, never solve that one equation if there's more than one variable. Not possible. Impossible to solve because what that one variable equals will depend on what the other variable is, and you don't know what the other variable is. So you can never solve that. Now you can graph it, which is what we're going to do on the next thing. Actually, we'll probably start next week. But you can't tell me what that variable equals to. All you can do is rearrange stuff. Here you go. Getting. Right, so here, what's the math going on with 7? What is the answer to what I asked? What is the math going on with 7 and 2? Does that mean I'm putting a number next to it? Do it. Not dividing, multiplying. But what you would do to get rid of the 7 is actually divide. So it's kind of like, you're going to get super simple. If I just wrote this, 2x, what did I just do? 2x means? Yeah, it means 2 times x. That's really what I'm writing. Right? If I give you this equation, I say 2 times x is 6. What is x? Times 2 is 6. Okay. 2 times 6, well, don't worry about this. 2 times 6 will be 12. What number? What times 2? So some number times 2 will be 6. 2 times 2. You need to go through this. Making that long and figuring it out, it's going to be tough. is the answer 2 from the previous. That's the answer. After this number times this number would have given me 6. So x equals 3. So I already know that without really giving the steps. I'm just saying, okay, what number times 2 is 6? 3 times 2 is 6. X is 3. Here's how you are actually getting to it. You're going to do the opposite. If I want to solve for this, I need to get rid of that. Solving just means to get x all by itself. Get this number all, and get rid of that. To get rid of something, you do the opposite. How do you get rid of it? Opposite. Opposite of multiplying is dividing. We don't want to divide. But if I divide on this side, so 6 divided by 2 is 3. Still have an x over there. So this is the math behind solving. You subtract with subtract. You divide by itself. You had the right idea of getting rid of it, but the way you get rid of it is divide. Now, if you were doing kind of like this, I guess. So you wanted to get rid of that one. Well, because you were adding one, it's the opposite. Subtract. Here, though, again, multiply. Here, we're multiplying. Here, we multiply. So you get rid of the 7. At the end, you went to do it first. This is correct here, first step. At the end, so just think, what is the opposite of math? And that's what you do to get rid of it. Is this Sophia? Was it yours? That one. Team B, perfect. I'm not, these are super high. I guess because they expect you to have calculator. Get a calculator. So I'm sure. What would that be? I'm just going to tell you what that number is because I don't really care about the math part. So I'm going to give you much smaller numbers. 1,485. So you can just set that part up, 1,485. Just 8. What's the number? I just raised the screen and writes it down before we get done. Oh, look at you. Come on in, girl. We're practicing for the quiz. This is, I already did an example of literal equations where you're just moving variables around. These are the problems. If you don't have the book pages, you can try to do those. 1,485. So 1,485. If you show me you have all this stuff down, then maybe, but I need to see that you've done all of these and you need to do all the absolute value also. Yes, we want to quiz on Monday. You got a quiz on Monday on brand new stuff. If you don't know the new stuff, I'm not letting you take it. You have your problems. I'll be over there next. And did you do all the absolute value? Can't say I know how to do all of these. Here's your stuff. That doesn't make any sense. I'll come over there. All right, so now what do? Well, B all by itself. That's what you need to get rid of, but what do? Do it. Opposite. Again, I feel like you just guess at the answer and eventually get it right. You've got to know on the quiz. I can't tell you. Why do you divide? How do you know that's going to get -10? How do you know it's going to be How do you know? Just because I told you, because I'm not going to be able to tell you on an exit ticket, so how would you know on an exit ticket? That's what I'm doing. I can't tell you yes or no. What's going on that's telling you to divide?
something you need to understand. This is that's why you're doing the opposite of what's going on. This is 15 times B. So you need to do whenever you're trying to get rid of something, you do the opposite now. Or if this is 15 times B and I want to get rid of 15, then I divide by 15. That's the opposite now. That's why we up here. This is correct. We wanted to get rid of 3. So this is a positive 3. So the opposite of having a positive 3 is subtract 3. Getting rid of it by doing the opposite. That's what you need to be thinking. If I want to get rid of something, I need to do the opposite. So you got to figure out what's the math going on, and then what's the opposite. Okay. You got like 2 minutes to do some work back there before you're back up front. I'm giving you a warning. I'm saying you're not working. I'm going to. I'm giving you a 2-minute warning. So. All right. Well, I told Cody, I come over and check the issue. I see you confused with the other guys. Things cool. Okay, for them to hold. Always want to say cool. So this would be that divided by that. I'm not worried about you figuring out what that is because my numbers will be happy. All right. Ones that are tough are the ones with variables on the side. You should be able to do that. You need to do. You're solving for C, I believe. Directly said. You need to copy all these down. So I'm taking that here. That's what you need to do first. Copy. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to be getting rid of that in about probably 10 minutes, maybe less. So you're solving for C. What's that mean we need to do? We need to get C all that cells. So what do we need to get rid of? Well, the 3 in the way. The 3 in the subtract 8D. Think of this as all one thing. This is the 3 is one thing. You got to think of this as all one thing. Because it really is. If we knew what D was, we'd multiply it by negative. So what's the farthest away from D? Well, again, think of it all as one thing. So this we would consider farther away. Subtract this D is all farthest away. So we want to get rid of that first. How would we get rid of this? It's the opposite. Yeah. Getting rid of the whole thing. So you have to think it from the perspective of what are we doing to the variable C? From the variable C, we're subtracting all of this. So if you have the variable C, like if this 3 wasn't there, we'd be subtracting 8. The opposite of that is adding. But just like that thing were one number. Well, because you want it to go away. If you divide it by D, you still have the subtract 8 there. And actually, if you divide this by D, you have to divide everything. Which isn't going to be a figure that was 3C divided. Can't just divide one thing by 3. Now, what do you do with your last step? The last step. I'll work my way back over there. What will we solve for? Yeah. This is actually a real fun. Is what you have. Yeah, I'm not like don't try. Well, see, the thing is, you can never have variable same variable on both sides. That's fine. Don't worry about those. That's the ones I circled are actually because I don't want to. I said those are the parts. Don't start with the parts. So you need to be practicing like 1 through 6, and then well, actually 8 is coming. So 1 through 6, and then 11 through. Solve y. Good.
I'm not gonna put in like this. That would do. Yeah. So let me tell you the ones that you definitely need to know how to do. 11 is a very good. 11, 3 is a good one, which you did. And then 4, which I don't think you did just now. So the best 2 problems up there, or the best 3 maybe, 2, 3, and 4 are the best ones. So make sure you did those. Oh, actually, 13 and 14 also. So 2, 3, and 4, 13 and 14. Actually 11, 13. I'm gonna circle. The ones I circled up here are actually the hard ones. So I think that was confusing to some people. I wouldn't worry about those. Those are the hardest ones. If you want to try those, phone shouldn't be out. If you want to try those, you can. But the best ones to try for the quiz, I'll circle them actually even in a separate color. So why don't you bring me your paper up here real quick and I'll check that. So those are the best ones. So make sure you have those written down. You practice those. If you can do those, you're in good shape for the quiz. I wouldn't worry about really any of the other ones unless you have already done all of them, except for some. Let's see if you have done those correctly first. So we'll go down to 11. Good. Why did I circle 12? 12's not that. Oh, wait, yeah, it is. Yeah, 12's nice. So X. I don't want to turn on negative D, good. Yep, you got to get that negative, good. So you look like you're in good shape on these. Did you do the absolute value stuff?
Is that the absolute value? Is it the
Page 37. Yes. And if you really worried about that one, if you missed, start with again. You need to go back and do those. So I'm not going to check. Oh, let me see. Did you try to do some of the hard ones just to see if you? She needs some help. She was asking for me a minute ago, so if you can get to her before I can. 7 C's, Dustin's. It didn't really give you any, like they're all kind of the same. I don't know which they were giving you. Q divided by 2. All right, so you look like you're good on those. Go to the absolute value one. I'll check those in a minute. And they can practice any. I don't have it up anymore, but they can, the new stuff is absolute value and literal equations. And those are the little problems. She's got that pages. And then the retake, I think she worked on proportions. Proportions is going to be a retake. We're still struggling a little bit on the start up with the opposite side of the equal sign. So just if they brush back through that. I think she got it down now. Just people check some. And then 2-step equations and multi-step will be. So she's kind of getting practice on the 2-step while she's doing the other things. So this is a D. Well, what are we solving? We need to get rid of what? We need to get rid of this whole thing. You gotta think of this as one thing. It's a, so we're subtracting this away from C. So how do we get rid of it? Add the whole thing. So really quickly, this has been a little bit tricky for some people. So I'm just gonna show you on, actually, I'm gonna create my own problem, but I'll do it like one that's up there maybe. Where's one? So here, we'll do this. So we'll say 4y plus 2m equals 12. Something like that. If I'm solving for y, solving for y, I need to get rid of the 4, and then I need to think of this as one thing. I guess I'd include the plus sign. I need to think of that as one thing that I want to get rid of. I'm not trying to get rid of the 2 and then the m. I'm trying to get rid of that whole term. So I think what's the opposite? So if I'm adding this to the y, like I'm adding this whole thing to the y, well, then I need to do the opposite of adding that whole thing to the y, which is subtracting that whole thing from the y. Think of that as one thing. A lot of people are trying to do something individually, like with just the 2 or just the m. You can't. You're trying to get rid of that whole thing. So again, when you're trying to get rid of something, what's the opposite? Well, if I added this to y, I need to subtract it from y. And then over here, you would just say subtract 2m and then divide by 4, divide by 4.
Can't get a number. You do this for this time. That's your writing? Okay, good. Because this is the right thing here. Not sure how you're getting this stuff over here. It's 12 plus 8b. And you wouldn't divide. So when you add this 8b right here, this whole thing's gone. Subtract 8b plus 8b all cancels out. Just like if this was subtract 2 and this was plus 2, subtract 5 and plus 5, they go away. That's what we're trying to do, get them to go away. You already made them go away right here. That's perfect. So you would just have 3c on the left. See that you brought this down. Sure. Where you would go. This is the correct step here. And then you would just have 12 plus 8b on the right hand side. Because I'm just, you gotta think of it as moving stuff around, not trying to combine it. Once you have 12 plus 8b, and then on the other side, you just have 3c, then I want to try to figure out.
Did you do some more yet, Sophia? You're Maddie? I'll come back there a second. Okay, yeah, try, again, those ones in blue are the important ones. There'll probably be 2 literal equations. One where it's more like 3, and then one where it's more like 4.
If you don't know what D is, how can you combine it with a number when D might be 1,000,000 or it might be 2, it might be -7? You can't combine it. Because this, when you say plus AC, it's literally like you're adding 8 D's. Like D plus D plus D plus D plus D plus D plus D. It's like that. I don't know what they are, I can't combine it. Unless it's other D, then I can say, okay, well, I've got more D. So be careful on that. And then that, yeah, that's all you can do. Yeah. Now here. Little tricky. Yeah, negative C. Divide by D, that's correct, but then you would actually still have negative C. Negative C. So what's your? Divide by that. I wouldn't take all off of that, but let's process it. You see what I'm saying? We got to. You have it. Solving for C, right? If you divide, and you're right, like you're multiplying, so you divide, correct. Problem is, we still have that negative. You don't want negatives, you just want C. So there's two ways to think. Either you can do it in this other step, and you can say, well, to get rid of this negative sign, let's do it one. Now, then you gotta know how to divide by negative. Basically, you just split the size. Negative. I would do this. I would just, because this is well. Also accept it. I would say, well, if I divide by, do you understand that it's negative C times D? It's really the same. Makes sense. Because I mean, all I'm doing is like negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Well, negative 3 times 2 is also negative 6. I'm rearranging. So I would think of it as this, and then it's going to be D, and just divide by negative here. That's fine. Yeah, that's something. Let me, okay. So you may want to go to the absolute value, and you want to. That's.
It's not going to go away from here.
Yeah. That's the perfect. That's the. That's that. B or W. Sort of did, but we're solving for B. You're solving for W. This is what W is. If you divide by B, right? So you got rid of V and you still have W left. W equals that. If you're solving for B, you need to get rid of the W. You understand? Like whatever you're solving for, you don't do anything with that. That needs to be left.
The whole purpose. All right.
Read.
So you said you.
Good.
Which is correct. I don't like you to do that.
Bring out a negative on it. Cost you.
You.
Oh, wait, that's right.
Here, yeah.
But very good shit. Just be good.
Now, so okay.
17.
Because that's the name.
It looks like they're fine.
Which is large.
Do you have any other ones to make up, or are you good on those? Which words are you? All right, I don't want you playing with your phone, if you want to do that, allow it to stay, I'll let you do that. What did that do? Do the bags. That'd be the one thing I'd like you to do. You got a long time, on your hands, sit there, play your phone. Want to do something else, I can give you something else that's more challenging than what we're doing, so, want something else? I'm gonna give you a real world kind of thing that we did before. We didn't do it in here, but I want to see if you can set up, because these, they love doing these on the district and.
I've already done the final quiz. Yeah, well, I did the midterm. I got it down last second.
Yeah, but you, because it said, it took the FSA, you wouldn't.
Well, at the very end. It can stay like that.
Which algebra learning right now? We're on the.
I don't think I'm. I teach you.
We're on.
Like that. Well, it was a good problem. I guess it was. Oh. I want you to try to create equations for those. They're significantly more difficult, but they're also more like what you're going to see on FSA. Oh, yeah. Oh, I need to do absolute value. I'm glad you just said that, because I've said it 3 times. I'm forgetting to do it. All right, so everybody stop what you're doing. You at least watch what I do, because this is the thing I'm most worried about for Monday, because you will not have a chance to do a retake on this. So if you fail it, you're going to have 1 F included in your grade for the quarter. Especially if you have a good grade, that could wind up dropping you a whole letter grade. So make sure you remember to do the absolute value problems correctly, which really just involves this one thing. If I have the absolute value of 2x plus 1 equals 10. I'm not even going to do any explanation of what absolute value is. You have got to remember, this is going to have 2 answers. You are going to have to solve 2 different equations. One equation will just be exactly what's here. You just solve that. You just kind of take away the absolute value symbols. Do not forget, though, that you have to then, even if you do it incorrectly, if you just write that to show me you understand there's a second equation you have to solve, that writing those 2 things right there is a passing grade. You hadn't solved anything yet. But the concept of absolute value is understanding you're going to have 2 answers. So I'm going to give you a passing grade, although there's going to be possibly another, like this might be mixed in with literal equations, so I shouldn't say you'll pass the whole quiz, that whole section. But for absolute value, that's a passing grade. So if you just remember to do that, you can't solve equations at all. You have no idea how to solve for a variable. If you can just write that and show me you understand there's really 2 different equations you're supposed to solve, that'll be a passing grade for the absolute value part. Now they're just 2-step equations. You should hopefully be able to solve them. So we always start farthest from the variable. Subtract 1. 9 or 2x equals 9. Well, that means 2 times x. So what's the opposite of 2 times x? Divided. So that's one answer. But then I have to say, so x is going to be equal to that, or x is going to be equal to same exact steps. I just get a different answer at the end. Or x is going to be equal to negative
11 divided by 2. So that's all you have to remember to pass is just that there's two different equations. Again, that's based on these absolute value symbols. If you see these guys here, those bars up and down around part of the problem, then you have two equations you need to try to solve. You can just remember that. Even if you can't solve, you'll still get a passing grade for that part of the quiz, the absolute value part. And then if you solve it, right, you can. So those, I'll put those problems up. I've had the literal problems up forever. If you didn't finish writing down the literal problems, then you'll have to just work on absolute value. Let's see. I'm gonna just go ahead and do it from scratch. And write these down because you do have quite a bit of time actually to practice, but I'd still write them all down first, then go back and try to solve them. Oh, I'm still recording. Actually, nope, no notes. Nope, you gotta remember it. That's why, Monday, I think this quiz will take a while, so I'm not gonna do any long review, but maybe I'll just remind you of some things, like when you see the absolute value problem, don't forget to create two equations. When you do literal equations, think of it as just moving stuff around. Don't try to solve for, like, get a number. But yeah, no notes. Oh, let's see. So that's page 37. So there are more problems in this, but I'm not super worried about you doing a ton of them. So if you can do, don't worry about this one. Don't worry about that one. If you can do those 6, you should be fine for the absolute value part of the quiz. No, once you practice them. Again, there's no retakes on this. I may still, you're gonna have